Hello, everyone on Patreon. Thank you so much for voting this month on an actor's performance review. The winner this month is Kim Novak in Bell, Book, and Candle, which was released in 1958. The plot, according to IMDb, is a modern day witch likes her neighbor, but despises his fiancee, so she enchants him to love her instead. It was directed by Richard Quine, as well as starring James Stewart and Jack Lemmon. And I quite enjoyed this film. It's a nice it's a Christmas film, yet has a really Halloween vibe to it. It's like a Halloween Christmas film, which I haven't seen the two of those combined that I can think of because of the fact that she and Jack Lemmon and others are witches. So it has this Halloween feel to it, even though it takes place during Christmas. And of course, Kim Novak is well known with her collaboration with Jimmy Stewart in Vertigo, directed by Hitchcock. And this is a lesser known film. I mean, it's certainly not a great film. It's it's quite light. It's pretty simple, but it's out there. It's pretty out there in a lot of ways, with combining this romantic comedy with witchcraft and, like I said, Halloween and Christmas. But it's beautifully shot. The cinematography is and the direction is really, really well done. Jack Lemmon, I've always loved. Every time I see him, in a film, whether it's a repeat viewing or something like this that I hadn't seen before, I always think, man, Jack Lemmon was just so good. Of course, one of the other films on the poll this month was his performance in The Apartment, which I've discussed before. If you haven't seen it, there was a New Year's video we did back when Steve Chambers was my co-host with a couple of others, and we discussed films that take place on New Year's, and that was one of them. So I have discussed it a little bit, and I'm sure I will review it one day soon. But jumping into the performance of Kim Novak, this film, I haven't seen all of the films she was in, but this film really proved to me how underrated she was as an actor. And I think, anyone who's really, really gorgeous, unfortunately, their looks will always be talked about before any kind of talent. It's the and talent they have, which is unfortunate that still is often the case, even though people will acknowledge a great talent of someone very, very beautiful. But the beauty, in particular for women, their beauty is always discussed and analyzed more than ever. That's just been my experience anyways. And so she was someone who, was very, very beautiful and was like a blonde bombshell of her day in the day. But she was quite good. And one thing about her is that she had brought a real simplicity to everything she did. She's not forcing anything. She's so present. She's right there. She's listening. She's responding. And she really tapped into different sides of this character, because she's this witch who, is bored of her daily routines. She's got her cat. She's got this little art gallery where she sells all sorts of really interesting artwork. And, she practices witchcraft, right? So on the side. And so, her cat, her cat is almost like the witch's bowl. I mean, they don't go into the details of how they have these witchcraft powers and what it is, how they utilize them. It's just that they're able to turn lights off. They're able to get things that they want and things like that. And so what's also funny is that their power is limited, which they acknowledge, which, Jack Lemmon's character is broke, and he's like, well, we can't just turn, things into gold. So his character later on in the film is very motivated by money, which you can see, which are, he can only use his powers so much. So that becomes a conflict with Kim Novak's character. But she is off the top, talking to her cat, and she's bored, and she thinks she wants, she wants to be with someone. And so she meets Jimmy Stewart, and she's she's attracted to him. And so he is about to be married. And so she finds a way to she uses her powers to to break them up, and so she could have Jimmy Stewart. She puts a spell on him, but he is attracted to her. It's just that she really pushes it so he would leave his fiance for her, and she almost has. I wonder if this was a conscious choice, because the fact that she has this cat that is part of her power, she's almost cat-like in her behavior. She has a purring feeling to her. It almost reminded me of the different actors who have played Catwoman. She would have been a perfect Catwoman, Kim Novak, because she's very flirty and seductive, and it's done in this purring sort of way, in the way she looks at him. It's really subtle and really, really well done. And I thought that she did that so beautifully that it then lent to how her behavior begins to evolve, because the thing with witches is that they say is that the witches cannot fall in love, and what happens is she falls in love with him, and as a result of that she begins to lose her powers. So when he finds out that she's a witch, and he's put a spell on her, and she's put a spell on him and everything, he storms off, and she becomes heartbroken and depressed. And another thing is that witches can't cry. And there's this beautiful shot where she's with her aunt and she's looking in the mirror as the tears are rolling down her face, and she just looks completely broken and vulnerable. And it's such a contrast between this beautiful seductress that we see off the top, this cat-like woman, and now this woman who's quite broken and now falling in love. So this vulnerability that oozes out of her was quite strong, and again, really subtle. And another thing I noticed about her is that when she got angry in some of the scenes, and she even would say to someone something along the lines of, like with her aunt early on, "You're making me angry," or something like that. As an actor and acting teacher myself, those are those sort of lines that actors always fall into traps into, because you want to really hit. Sometimes the impulse is to hit a line like that. Like if it's "you're very angry," you want to sound very angry when you say it, and so actors will fall into faking it, subconsciously or consciously. And so you have to just say it based on how you're feeling in that moment, and based on the rapport you're having and the connection with the other person. And she really does that. I mean, she says it, you get the point. There's a feeling behind it, but she didn't force it. It's completely natural. So she was comfortable, very comfortable in front of the camera in allowing the scene to just unfold. And even later with how the love story unfolds with Jimmy Stewart, and at the end, as they realize that they do really love each other, even through this whole spell and conflict, is that, the sort of what the film is saying is that you don't have to force love. It'll either happen naturally or it won't. So that's sort of the lesson that she learns. And so, of course, they do fall in love, but just the way in which she opens up to him, and the vulnerability that she shows, that she really loved this man. It was really touching. It was really, really moving. And I just think that she's really, really good. And, as we know, in the 60s, I don't know the details of why she left Hollywood, if she just didn't want to do it anymore, or if she was sick of being in Hollywood or being an actor, or if it was also because the film she was in, her star was dropping, or she's an artist, right? She became a really successful artist. I know she lives on a ranch somewhere, and she's takes care of animals and stuff. So I don't know if her interest went somewhere else, but she gave some really great performances in the 50s, and even a couple in the early 60s that I've seen. Again, I haven't seen all of her films, but I thought that she was quite wonderful in this. I mean, she had the quality to be convincing as this seductive witch, and she's not an evil witch. She's not. Again, she didn't really try to. She's not trying to make the character seem that way, like something out of the Wizard of Oz. It's just like, everyone, they're just normal people. They're not really necessarily, they're not really human, but they act like everybody else. They just have these powers, which was a unique take on this witch-like characters. So I enjoyed it. I mean, it's a fun, like I said, it's a fun film. It's light. It's great around Halloween or Christmas time or during both periods. And I thought Kim Novak gave a great performance. So thank you so much for voting this month. I hope that you've enjoyed this review, and I will see you in the next video.